Hi. So, the fact that I'm even telling this story tells you how very much having cancer erodes your sense of shame and personal boundaries and sense of self. This is the story behind one of the comics that's in my book. When I started vomiting, I didn't know why. I was flattened. I was basically crawling between our guest room and the washroom. I couldn't keep water down. I had no obvious reason. I hadn't just had pelvic radiation. I wasn't on a new chemo drug that was making me throw up. I hadn't eaten bad Indian food. I couldn't place it, right? I couldn't keep water down. I was trying everything. I started with ginger gravol. I worked my way up to metoclopramide. I worked my way up to Zofran, which is this really hardcore antiemetic that they give you when you have chemo that they're just trying to get you to keep insure down, to keep anything down. I tried medical marijuana. I'd had some great success with that in the past. Sent me straight to the washroom to throw up. My husband was hungry. He ordered a pizza. The smell of that sent me to the washroom to throw up again. I was just wasting away. I didn't have a lot to lose, but I was just getting thinner and thinner and thinner. It was a nightmare. And I just didn't know what to do. And the thing about cancer is that the drug of choice to manage pain is the family of opioids. And opioids are great. Doctors love them because they have no pain ceiling. As your body acclimates, as you start to adjust to one level, they can just give you more. And as you gradually increase the amount of opioids you take, you're not at risk of death. But what they do is they slow down your bowel function. They slow down the movement of food, and as it processes into becoming fecal matter, as it compresses in your intestines, small and large. And what was happening is that I had compressed poop all the way through my large and small intestines, and the opioids were slowing it down to where the muscles weren't contracting and pushing and contracting and pushing. And so when I ate or I drank, it just did a U-turn. It hit the bottom of my stomach and it had nowhere to go. So I was just throwing up. And of course I didn't know this. This was a new experience for me. So I ended up in ER. And they took an x-ray and they showed me in the x-ray the dark snake moving through my entire abdomen. And they were like, oh yeah, honey, you're just full of poop. So my palliative team, my oncologist, the team, they all said, so we're going to put you on a really aggressive laxative schedule. It's going to be great. We're going to get rid of this. You're going to be on the other side. It'll be fine. So we did that. We put me on an aggressive laxative schedule. It all cleaned out. And then they said, our next step is going to be being a little proactive. We're going to change your medication to hopefully make it so that this doesn't happen again. And so I'd been taking these pills, which were hydromorphone. They were a time release. And I had to take them twice daily, once in the evening, once in the morning. And then I had this continuous, gentle cushion on which to rest the tumors in my bones. And processing that through my stomach was what was slowing down my bowel function. So they said, well, that's one opioid. It's derived from the poppy, it's traditional, but we have this one synthetic opioid fentanyl, and it's a patch. And it's fantastic because it's transdermal, it goes through your skin. So instead of going through your stomach, it goes through your skin and it doesn't slow down your bowel function as much, which is fantastic. Sounded really good to me. So they gave me the patch. I hadn't eaten for a week. My brain was just fuzzy. I sat there, I tried to listen as the pharmacist explained how and he really took his time because, you've probably been hearing about fentanyl in the news lately. It's a scary drug when misused. Fantastic drug when used correctly. So he walked me through it. He explained, it's a sticker. It's basically like a sticker. It's about the size of a quarter. You're going to apply it. It might peel off a little around the edges, and if it does, just get some surgical tape and tape it down. I went home. I opened the box. There was a bunch of paper. I didn't read it because I just talked to the pharmacist. And in the back, there was this sheet of stickers. I peeled a sticker off. I put it on my skin. It was already sort of peeling off. And I was like, oh, no, I better tape that down. And I tried to go about my day, but the thing is, I couldn't really go about my day because I was getting worse. I was getting worse and it was different. I started throwing up again, but my bowels also liquefied and I was shaking and I was sweating and I couldn't sleep and I was writhing and my muscles just ached. I was in agony. And now I still couldn't eat and I still couldn't keep water down. And now we're getting into about a week and a half and I tried so hard. I tried to drink coconut water. I tried to drink Ensure. I tried to gum rice cakes, but everything was coming up and I was sweating and shaking and miserable. And that's when I ended up in the ER a second time and in 2 weeks. And I was there and they asked me all the questions. They asked me about the change in my drug regimen. I said, well, I have this new fentanyl patch, but I don't think it's kicked in yet. And they said, okay, well, what we can do is we can rehydrate you. So they hooked up an IV, and I swear it was like a vampire had just it just drained that quickly into my body because my heart rate was really low because I was so dehydrated that they gave me another bag with the hydration and with more Zofran to try and calm my stomach. And then they said, but we need to get your pain under control. So they put in an IV, and they filled up a syringe with morphine because knowing that I had the fentanyl patch, they had kind of limited options in terms of what they could do to get my pain under control. So they took this syringe into this IV, and it's called push morphine, which is basically clinical shooting up. And they pushed the morphine into my vein, and I instantly threw up, and I started gurning. My jaw was but man, did I start to feel great. I'll admit it. And they were worried about me, though, because the symptoms, the side effects I was experiencing were really consistent with potentially having a brain tumor. So they now that I was calm and not throwing up and the pain was under control, they wheeled me over to give me a CT scan. And it was a non-contrast CT scan, but it would have shown if there had been a really big tumor that was clearly responsible for what I was experiencing. But because it was non-contrast, my oncologist said, well, you still need an MRI. So I went home. I armed with morphine to get me through until the fentanyl patch kicked in. I was starting to feel a little bit better, though. I wasn't shaking as much. I wasn't sweating as much. I had my MRI. And then when I was waiting for the results from the MRI, it was time to change the patch because they only last 3 days. And I peeled it off, and I looked at it. And my brain was starting to become clearer.
And I realized that I hadn't put on the patch. I had put on the sticker that came in the package with the patch. You're supposed to write the date on. And so I flipped through, and kind of tucked in with all the literature I was supposed to read were these envelopes that clearly said 1 fentanyl patch. And I took it out and I put it on, and I told my doctors, and we were all so relieved because it was the medication. Like, I'd thrown myself into full-blown opium withdrawal. And I got to the other side of it. Like, I went all the way through unassisted withdrawal before I discovered that I was not on medication at all anymore. So we had a conversation about communication. Because really, if I had been able to listen, if I hadn't been, 1 week and then 2 weeks into not eating, if my brain had been half lucid, or if the pharmacist had just opened the box of drugs and shown them to me, it never would have happened.